My name's Erin. Once upon a time, I worked for a big company in Manhattan, designing and animating motion graphics. Even though I had a steady job and lived in a cozy Brooklyn apartment with my wonderful husband Sal and our cat Lucy, I wasn't happy. I wanted to do more with my life. Ever since I was a little girl, I wanted to make a movie. But that seemed like too big of a dream. One day, while working in my big corporate office, something unexpected happened. My boss made an inappropriate comment about the way I was dressed. At first, I felt crushed, like it was my fault. I started dressing differently and tried to stay out of the spotlight. It was hard for me to feel empowered when I was constantly being underestimated. But in my time away from the office, something wonderful happened. I found inspiration from a community of feminists I found online. These women were strong, passionate, and supportive. I realized I wasn't alone. I felt empowered and wanted to pass this feeling on to other women like me. So I started a blog called Feminist Wednesday and sent out a weekly newsletter to all my friends about all the cool feminists I was meeting. After running the blog for a while, it started to gain momentum. To grow the company, I built a team and started attending entrepreneur events. I wasn't just a blogger anymore. I was a founder. And the thing is, I had always been interested in business, but I never saw myself as a leader. When I thought of CEOs and business people, they never looked like me. But this group of women, they did. They were my friends, and they accepted me for the way I was. And then it hit me. Now was the perfect time to chase my dreams. I should make a movie about the inspiring women I was meeting. So I did the thing you're never supposed to do. I quit my job. I began writing the movie, put together a Kickstarter campaign to fund it, and with the help of amazing supporters and an all-female crew, we raised over $100,000. That moment, my life changed forever. This wasn't just about making a movie. It was about showing girls their dreams have the power to change the world. Little did I know, this was just the beginning. Once the Kickstarter was fully funded, things began to move really quickly. We dove into production and moved into our own office. There, we began to develop our story and learn what it takes to start your own company. While researching for the film, I discovered that in 1987, the year I was born, some female entrepreneurs could not get a loan from a bank to start a business without the co-signature of a male relative. I also learned only 23 of the Fortune 500 companies had female CEOs. The good news is, the women I know aren't interested in letting facts like these stop them from following their passion. Today, women are starting over 1,200 businesses a day, a number that's been increasing astronomically over the last 10 years.
I knew from basically my second year of university, if not at birth, that I was meant to run my own company. I'm Komal Minhas. I'm from Ottawa, Canada, and I am the CEO of KoMeida, a visual media consultancy. My company is still very fluid in its definition, working for companies on their corporate social innovation or corporate social responsibility pieces, highlighting that work through storytelling. You know, there's some startups that are based on products, but I'm a startup based on me. I am my business, and I'm not a lifestyle business, but I am going to be a very powerful business. It's just going to take time. I think that coming from an immigrant family, my mom ran a business, my dad ran business, my uncle, my aunt, we all lived together in a conjoined family too. So when you're managing a household of 10 to 15 people, grocery shopping itself becomes a management task. And growing up in that kind of an environment, You soak up entrepreneurialism as if it's like your lifeblood. You realize how to become extremely resourceful. It's a subconscious thing at that point. You look at problems in a different way. You look at life in a different way. So it just was part and parcel of how I was raised. Hello? Yes it is. Being an on-site storyteller, doing film photography, writing blog posts about the various days of the conference, creating a package of a 3 to 4 minute video about the experience for people at the event, sort of like a time capsule of what that was like. And then doing photography, full range photography services for all the sessions for the entire conference. And then you have this really 360 look at what the gathering was like. And I will send some quotes your way so that you can determine what is most doable for you and the team.
If you asked other people, they'll probably say something like, oh, Annie gets something into her head and then she will go through mountains to make that happen. I'm Annie. Right now I'm the co-founder of a company called Senvol, and we're in the industrial 3D printing space, which is a very exciting industry to be in right now. I think coming from an Asian household, you were pretty much expected to be a good student, so I pretty much was a good student. I was actually quite shy as a girl, and I really liked animals, and at the time I wanted to be a vet. And of course, my Asian parents said, no, you're not going to be a vet, you're going to be a doctor. And I thought, okay, well that was close enough. And so I actually did do pre-med when I was in college. As I was going through it, I kind of realized that I was more interested in business, and I did an internship for Deloitte in Beijing, and I really enjoyed it. And then Zach and I met at an innovations class when we were doing our MBA at Wharton, and the assignment was, here's this new technology called 3D printing, what would you do with it? And 95% of the people in the class said that they would use it for consumer applications, like they would use it for jewelry or glasses, toys, puzzles. And Zach and I were the only two people who thought about using it for industrial applications. So I thought about, what if you could use it to make parts on an offshore oil rig so that you could have parts on site and on demand and you wouldn't have to ship them in or fly them in via helicopter. And then eventually, as we started to work on our startup and our startup started to get more traction and we started to get customers, I just felt that if I didn't choose the startup over the corporate job, I would always wonder. And I didn't want to wake up every day wondering what the other path would have been. More people would know what a polymer was or what a composite was, rather than people who knew what polyamide was. Right. So that's why I selected.
Could you have both though? So I'm not suggesting necessarily get rid of this. I'm saying could we have both?
I started later, and I thought to myself, I really would have been hell on wheels if I'd started at 22. My name is Clara Villarosa, and I am the president and co-founder of Villarosa Media, a boutique publishing house that specializes in books by and about African American authors. I grew up in a black neighborhood, and most of the people in the neighborhood did not own businesses. They were not in positions of power. I'd always worked at a hospital, at a bank, as a social worker. I didn't know really anyone who owned their own business, and so this wasn't an aspiration. But once I did it, I was hooked. I had been at the bank a couple of years, and I was the highest African American in the bank. And so when I hit the glass ceiling, I was devastated. They were asking me to leave. I went home, I cried, I got up the next morning, and I put on my power suit and said, you don't want me here, and therefore I don't want to be here. And there's a number on this piece of paper that I want you to look at. And when I get that, I'm out the door. And I had a boyfriend, and he wanted to open a business, decided to do a bookstore. Now, I wasn't working, so now I was going to be involved in the business. And I found it to be my passion. I love being an entrepreneur.
Really clear for like how it works. Okay, I just learned this yesterday.
Yeah,
Okay,
no,
Right.
This
This is good.
Yes.
This is good.
Recipes from the Waldorf, you can trace it back to a black person, a free black person of color who
Yeah.
did it first in Saratoga.
Yeah. So then we were like, zing.
Oh.
And then so we gave her a title to start. So we said, okay, we're really interested.
And that's where they were from. There was a whole community of free people of color in Saratoga Springs.
A bio of Ann Hampton,
Some of her recipes,
recipes,
and all that
photos.
good.
She's been trying to do this
So
already.
if it's a labor of love and she has somebody who will publish it, boom.
Yeah.
Yes, but
So
I was always business driven. I mean, I'm still business driven today. It's just like I think of everything in regards of, business, revenue, non-emotional, get shit done. I mean, that's just how I've always been. I'm Joanne Wilson. I have been involved in the tech industry since the mid-90s. I've been blogging under the name Gotham Gal for 11 years now. I started doing angel investing roughly 9 years ago. Even when I was in 5th grade, I was in a brand new school. We sort of moved a little bit when I was younger. I had this concept of selling cinnamon sticks. I'm not even sure where I got this concept, but you would literally buy this cinnamon oil and you would soak the toothpicks in it, and then I'd sell them. And they were like a big hit. And then I thought, okay, I'm gonna branch out my products. And I was gonna do lemon sticks and mint sticks, and they did not sell as well. So I quickly marked them down, got rid of that inventory, put more money back into the cinnamon stick, which is no different today, than many of the companies that I work with in regards to building a product, making decisions, going down another pathway, and making those decisions relatively quickly. I've always been sort of like one of those big picture people and read ridiculous amounts of nonsense for your head in every different vertical. And so I think that's why my portfolio is so large in so many different areas. And I don't want to invest in something that like 12 people are doing, because that's not interesting to me. I want to see something really unique that makes complete sense to me, and I sort of have a guttural instinct that this has the potential to be big.
That was a great site. It was a great site, but nobody gets started. But if you can figure that out so that you make money on the transaction, even if a venue is...
Well, they do, they get the 7.5%.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. This is the greatest thing. I just send them to this and they take care of it. And these places are going to have more venues being booked because they don't have to deal with it. And it's huge money in their pocket. It's the biggest money in their pocket is these events.
How do I dream? I just sit and think and think and think. I'm like a daydreamer. Like I can sit down and just like think about the next step, or like I get inspiration a lot. I look at powerful women or powerful men, But in the same time, when I dream, I don't dream in a way to become them. I dream in a way to remain me. My name is Mariama. I am West African from the Republic of Guinea. I'm the president of Mariama Fashion Production and co-founder of There Is No Limit Foundation. Moved to the United States because it's not even like moving. I wasn't supposed to be here. I was just supposed to come visit and go back to my country. But my sister was a model here, and I look up to her. I wanted to do the same thing, so I got the opportunity to start modeling. But I was very open-minded. I've never been the woman who like to do one things or putting myself in the box. I always like to discover and to know what is my potential. So I did modeling, but I also did makeup and many other things until I find out what I really wanted to do. And when I started There Is No Limit Foundation, it wasn't for money. I wanted to give back, and the more I was giving back, I was becoming more happy and happy. Of course, Mariama Fashion Production came after. As I'm growing, I'm really like finding more my passion. Jess Foundation is we are a nonprofit organization where we support entrepreneurship, education, health, and sanitation. And Mariama Fashion Production represent artisans across Africa. The link is a percentage of Mariama Fashion Production actually goes to help There is No Limit Foundation small loan. Something that started with one woman, now 300 women. And when we work with them, we provide them with fabrics, bucket, colors, and money to start a business. So when they do it, they provide us with the fabric that we come to the US, show it to designers, sell it, give them their money, save some, and take the rest and invest in other projects such as clean drinking water or health or other projects that we want to sponsor. Well, she can even wear it in the city with like a flat. Yeah. I really want to give that choice to my client to be able to wear my product. Blue, but also we'll do some solid colors for women who don't like to wear print. Mm-hmm. So we'll have like a few different options we're gonna give. We're gonna have this kind of skirts. Yeah. So we're already thinking about the colorways and which fabric to do. This one we're gonna do with the cotton voile. This one we'll keep the African cotton.
Why not? Let's do something different. Something
I think,
cool. We are about the different.
Yeah. I'm definitely not trying to follow anyone. I like to be unique. I always like to do my own thing. Yeah. I break the rules sometimes, but that's okay. But I think we're gonna break in a good way, in a very good way, where we are ourselves. We want to build a brand that represents who we are helping, and that's the most important things about it. And I think people are going to love it.
I think I actually know so. I don't think so. I know so.
I'm in a startup where my co-founder is male, and because of my science background, I'm actually a lot more technical than he is. And when we go to conferences, I find that if Zach and I are at the conference together, I find that whenever there's a technical question, people tend to actually face him and look at him while they're asking the question. And often, of course, I answer the question because I know the answer. They still continue to look at him as if they're expecting him to give a response. Even after, let's say, 2 minutes of conversation, it's pretty abundantly clear that he wasn't going to give the answer and that I had all the technical knowledge. I was recently at a 3D printing conference in San Francisco, and one of the organizers comes in and he starts to say hi to everyone at the table. And it was literally, hello, here's my business card. Hello, here's my business card. He glosses over me entirely. Hello, here's my business card. And I was shocked, actually. I don't think that's ever happened to me before. I almost feel a responsibility of being a female entrepreneur, that I should be out there and I should show everyone that, yes, there is a female entrepreneur. If we lack role models and we ourselves are not going out there and being the face of it, then we're not going to have any role models.
The first Feeman was a small store on a small street in Denver, Colorado. I was the person doing everything. Fortunately, I had role models that I could look to or people I could go to. And one of the persons was another woman, and she owned the Tattered Cover bookstore, and she took me on as a mentor, Joyce Meskis. And I would call her up, and I may have been a little teary or may have been a little upset, but she understood it, and I felt it was okay to sort of have your meltdown. You melt down, and then you melt up.
This idea of reaching a point where you don't have fear, where you never doubt yourself, I think that's a myth. And one of the things that's really worked for me is I have a tight-knit group of women who also run businesses, and we're basically all on each other's speed dial. So when things are extremely well, we'll brag about it and we'll say, oh my God, can you believe this just happened? Let's celebrate together. And also on the flip side, when something happens and it feels devastating or you're not quite sure what the next best move is, I think it's vital to have people that understand you, that love you, that have your best interest at heart. In my life, it's actually vital. I have like 3 women who I can call on any time of the day or night, and they're there for me.
was like, good job. Okay. Because you're like, oh my God. She was like, yeah.
Let's hope they taste good.
You to my
They look
house.
good. They look good.
I should like put you on.
Mother's recipes. That's for Linda. So it's Grandma's recipe for Nick. And this is biscuits. She's a dog. Okay. Thank you, God, for bringing us all together, our family, to celebrate today for me and for you. We celebrate our family. God, please bless this food and bless our bodies for Christ's sake. Amen. For the imbibing of the food.
Amen.
After I had my first daughter, I was working for this guy, basically running his company. I think he was doing maybe $1 million when I first went to work for him, and I grew his company to about $15 million in 2 years. And at one point, I got pregnant, and he was just like, oh my God, that's the end of that. I was like, what, are you kidding? I'll be back. And I said, and by the way, I'm going to take off 4 weeks, and when I do come back, I want my entire salary renegotiated and all my deal renegotiated based on what I've done for you so far. And he was like, great. So I came back in 4 weeks, like I said, and you know, my entire life changed financially.
You know, we went to Australia here, this is skiing here, this is we were in Thailand, you know, these are all really fun, you know. For my personality, I don't think I would have the connections I have with my kids if I had just never stopped working. And hopefully this next generation of people, these companies will give them access. I mean, I met with this woman this morning. She had this amazing offer. She was in the liquor industry. And they said to her, we know you just had a baby, and we want you to know that everyone shows up here at 8:30 every morning. That's just how we operate. And she thought, I can't do that. This is my first child. I don't even know what I'm doing. How can I expect to be here at 8:30 every morning? Like, maybe it's 9 one morning, you know? I mean, who knows, you know? She didn't take the job when she started her own company. And I just think that if this next generation of companies want women that are smart and interesting and bring a lot to the table, they're going to have to be much more respectful and understanding of family life.
I mean, I had kept putting off trying to get pregnant for a while because I wanted to, you know, run my own company and figure that out. Because at first you just need to get that spark and the idea. I mean, full disclosure, we ended up like having to use fertility treatments. And so then it was this whole other level of, okay, we actually have to time this and figure this out. And I just didn't want to wait any longer because it was important to me, and I didn't want to have to put one part of my life on hold just to focus on another.
The hardest part about starting my business was the self-sabotage. I am exceptionally good at loving other people, and what I need to work at every day is loving myself. Sleep is important. Self-care is important. Eating well, exercise, all of these things that are fundamental to our success now and in the future are extremely important, but somehow that still gets lost in translation when you're starting your company, because there is so much guilt for every hour you are not working on building it. I'm bringing on my first employee, and just even thinking about offloading some of that work or delegating well or leading that person, like their livelihood is dependent on my company's success. That's a lot of pressure, but it's also a gift because I know that that's only going to expand over the years to come. Hi!
Hola, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
So how does working remotely feel now for you?
It doesn't even feel remote anymore. It's just having a space has been such a huge game changer. It just feels so impermanent. It feels like you're working in two spaces still, and I'm just like, no, need to commit.
Yeah, the time has come. There's a certain level of excellence that's already a baseline that I don't need to worry about. I know that you can handle reaching out to people. I know that you can handle writing content exceptionally well. And I know that Kylie, when she's writing stories, like she has a minimum of 3 sources every time, and that's critical to how an audience engages and how we look when we're public facing.
I think it can also be challenging because people are supportive, right? Like friends and family are supportive. But there's also this big, like, looming cloud over your head of, like, should you really be doing this? There's what people tell you they're excited for you, or they tell you, there's certain things they tell you, and then there's things you know they're thinking, which is like, maybe you shouldn't do this. It sounds really risky.
Yeah, you should never listen to your friends and family when you're starting a business. No, I'm dead serious. Your parents most likely, and maybe not. My mom was like, what did you do? Why did you quit your job? You're not gonna have health insurance. You're crazy. And now she's like, oh, well, you're in this new store now. And like tells everybody about it, and she's super proud. But in the beginning, she was really she didn't want us to do it. I think she was just scared for us.
I must say, even for me, the balance is very hard because I'm a workaholic. I love to work, and it kind of affects a lot of areas in my life. You never stop working because if you're working for somebody, then you know that you're going to start at 10, you finish at 7, you want to leave. But when you work for yourself, you're constantly working. I can be sleeping and wake up because I have forgot to do something. So I think that's what is the hardest for me, is that measuring when not to work. I feel a lot of pressure. To be honest with you, I feel a lot of pressure because I feel like as long as I'm doing good, the artisans I'm helping are doing good. The more I'm speaking up and people are learning about my story, they are learning about the story of many other people back home, because each time you talk to Mariama, you're learning about Guinea. So now they count on us. And that's why when I'm in the US, I'm always working. I'm always going to see designers because these people, they count on me. So I feel like if I don't provide them with work, I'm letting them down.
And I also felt that society assigns behavioral stereotypes to women. So they'll say women are more empathetic, or women are maybe softer, maybe even to the point of a pushover. Men are more aggressive, more of a go-getter. And then I thought, wow, like, how am I supposed to navigate this when the behavioral traits that I'm supposed to have in the job that I'm in are inherently masculine? And I felt very uncomfortable for a long time. And I thought, how could I take on these masculine traits because I need them to do well in my job and yet still feel like a woman? And I felt that in the end, the only way that I could reconcile it was to, in my mind, decouple those traits and those roles from what is masculine and what is feminine.
I think one of the reasons we don't see women being more leaders is because the role models that we have, I wouldn't want to be that. Where it's, all about power and control and domination, and I don't want to, if that's what I have to be, I don't want to be that. So one of the exciting things for me is when we can showcase women or, men that also have good balance. God, we can just show a different way of being a leader, right? We can show that there's great power. Business has done a bit of a disservice in that teaching us that being vulnerable is weak. That is absolutely wrong. Being vulnerable is one of the most powerful places that we can be. It's where we deeply connect with people. It's where we engage people in causes that are bigger than themselves.
if that person was a customer and the value of that business was like $50,000, okay, maybe that's one feeling, but like, what if the value of that business was like $50 million? Like, does $50 million warrant my degree of discomfort? And I don't know how to value that myself, because sometimes I think like, whoa, if it's like a $50 million like business, then maybe it's worth it to go on a few like uncomfortable lunch meetings with this person because it's like worth $50 million of business.
This is like not an answer you're gonna like, but like it's your decision. Like I would support whatever decision you make and you're comfortable with. So if you think, I don't want to talk to this person for one more second, and you get up, whether it was a $50,000 or a $50 million lead, like I don't care. If that's the decision you made, like I support that. If you're comfortable like being in a slightly uncomfortable environment for an hour because you think that could lead to big business and you think that's worth the trade-off, then like I would support that decision too. It's up to you. I'm not in your shoes. I don't experience this. I'm generally not even there when it's occurring. So it's hard for me to give you guidance other than to say, you've got to trust your gut, and I trust you. So whatever decision you make will be the right one.
I was doing a story hour for the children. And then at one point they sent in some middle school kids. They were not interested in my story hour. And so I was trying to figure out what to do with them. And they said, we're really interested in knowing how did you start this business? Because we don't see many people that look like you being a business person. And so I started doing a workshop on first 10 steps to starting a business. And then it wasn't the school kids were coming, then I started doing it for others. And then someone says, do you have a book? And I said, oh no, I don't write books, I don't do books. They said, we are taking copious notes. If you had a book, it would make it a lot easier. And so I said, oh, okay. And that's how I came up with the book. And after I wrote the book, I wrote one, I got it published, and then I wrote another one. And so I said, I'm not a one-shot author.
I mean, we didn't really know our mom had it in her. She really learned all those lessons and just applied them, and really without any, speaking of no fear, like kind of fearlessly, she went forward and wasn't afraid to, if she had a setback, it never really slowed her down. She's not one to ponder and ruminate and oh my gosh, she just like keep it moving forward.
She hit her stride about 50, and then she just soared. And it was, I think that her life had been constraining her until she got divorced, that she was able to fly. But it's also, she was almost like, sometimes I think she was from the wrong era.
Oh, that's my mother. These are her sisters and brother, and this is her mother. My mother, she wasn't around when I started the business, but she was around when I worked the jobs that I worked, and she was always so proud of me. And for me to go back to school when I was 55 years old, that was like her. And Linda going back to school when she was in her 50s. So it runs in the family, and I think Mom would really be proud. When I sold the first bookstore in Denver, I decided to move to New York to join my daughter and grandchildren. And then someone started talking to me about opening a bookstore in Harlem. I said, have you lost what little mind you have? I am 70-some years old. I do not need to be doing this. And so I thought about it. And I thought in Denver, I didn't have much of an African-American population. There were 5 black people and me. In Harlem, there were thousands of them. And I always wanted to have a store that made $1 million. And I said, you know what? I think I can do that in Harlem. Started down the path, I got investors, and I opened the store. And one of the things I marketed the store in Denver, it was the largest African-American bookstore in the country. That was chutzpah. It really wasn't. But the Human bookstore in Harlem was the largest African-American bookstore in the country, and it did make $1 million.
Right here, Mr. President, please. Thank you, you're very kind, thank you. Okay. Nice guy. Thank you, you're very kind, thank you. Johnny.
You guys come over here and turn around. We'll take a picture. The press can take a picture of you. Take a picture. These are my biggest purchasers here. 6.
I think even now, as I'm going to an investor meeting or an advisor meeting and I'm looking at the ads in Times Square or what's portrayed on the subway, and then I walk into an investor meeting and I'm thinking, this guy has seen like a blonde in a bikini and then, you know, girls on a billboard, and now he's looking at me and he's trying to take me seriously, or at least I hope he's trying to take me seriously. And so I definitely think it puts us at a little disadvantage when a young woman walks into an investor room. His lens has been tainted by all the other images that he's been seeing. So it's difficult for sure.
So I recently went on a trip to India. I was sexually harassed by a man that I was working with. And it very much reminded me of how much work we have left to do to culturally change stigmas, to culturally change expectations. Growing up Indian in Canada is very different than growing up as an Indian in a low caste in India. And my privilege was palpable at that moment because I got to walk away. And there are millions of women every day who do not get to walk away. So what do you want to be when you grow up? Software engineering, doctor, doctor, social worker, IS officer, software engineer. You ladies are going to change the world, okay? You have to promise me. And one day I'm going to come and I'm going to see you on this stage, okay? Promise?
Women are our most underutilized resource, and I feel like it's up to us to take care of each other. It's up to us to look and see what the needs are and to reach out and to fill those holes. It's like we can't wait for anyone else. We are the answer. So for me, it's vital to use everything in my power, whether that's financial resources, whether that's the platform that we've built, whether that's my connections, anything that I have at my disposal to help change the abysmal picture that many women still face.
There are hundreds and millions of women who still live under the poverty line. And the potential for impact of those women when they become empowered economically, socially, spiritually, is absolutely limitless. And we need to believe that. The stats are there. But once we as women truly feel that in our bodies and in our work, this world is going to be completely different.
After meeting in person on set, Komal and I hit it off right away. I was inspired by her contagious energy and passion for women's equality. We decided to work together and have KoMeida build out the global distribution of the film and help bring Dreamgirl to the world.
You know, when I was interviewed for the film, I didn't expect to be a part of the back end of it and this whole process of it. So watching that and being able to see myself grow through this process and through our plans for Distro and the impact we want to make, it's just so beautiful. Yeah. That's my Yeti scream. Anytime Erin tells me something good on the phone, that's all I do is Yeti scream. So.
In Capture Proof's company we're invested in. This is company we're invested as well. Sweden, they said that to me. And then some of these things I've just picked up. We're invested in Royal Palms, invested in Just Works. I judged a food contest. So just things, that I pick up along the line that I think are relevant and interesting. I just pin them up and then they just sort of grow. I mean, eventually I'd like this to be completely like filled with stuff. I'm not very good at keeping it up, but once in a while when I go to events, I throw things up here and stuff like that. So that's what it is.
I was at a seminar and there's an investor that I was really interested in, and I walked up to him and I didn't say what I should have said, but the next day I got his email and I shipped him ice cream and I wrote him a letter saying what I should have said. And it's just getting that confidence, and usually whenever we've met an investor and I'm pitching to them, I'm confident, but like that first time, just like cold calling essentially, or just walking up to them, it can be hard, I think that it's something that you kind of have to like build yourself up for.
When I started blogging about 11 years ago, which was my 15th career, I started hearing from all these women. They needed help, they needed advice, and they needed funding, and they weren't getting funded. And so I made this conscious decision after investing in two. I'm really going to make a conscious decision to invest and help women move forward in their careers. When you're sitting on the other side of four men and you're pitching a woman-centric perhaps idea, it's hard to get across what you're doing, or maybe even to connect with that person. But on the other hand, we're in a world where women in many ways rule the world in regards to the internet. It's a $255 billion global business of what is transacted on the web. Women account for 60% of those purchases, and they have 85% influence over what is purchased. And that is anything from technology, clothing, events, tickets, you name it. And so why would you even put money in an e-commerce business when there wasn't a woman involved? Because she certainly understands what goes on in the web in regards to transactions on e-commerce platforms.
So I've raised $300 million for Imaginea. When you go out to ask other people for money to do things that you're passionate about, one of the things, you just can't be afraid of that. Part of running a company and growing something that is truly amazing is asking people for money. It's actually part of the fun part, because you actually get to share what you're deeply passionate about and how you see the world and how you think you can actually make money. It's a wildly vulnerable place to be, because you're sharing everything about you, what you think you're great at, because you have to share that. No one is going to give you money if you do not share and if you do not believe that you rock.
Too. Somebody told me one time that the job of an investor is to keep the founder from quitting.
That's really funny.
And I have had a few of those phone calls at 8:30 at night, really tired.
Oh, yeah.
I'm done. And no, you're not.
I talked to someone yesterday, and the last 3 times I've talked to her on the phone, I can hear she's on the verge of tears.
Yes.
And I hadn't heard from her 2 weeks, and I texted her and I was like, what's going on? And we got the phone. She's like, I'm past my breakdown.
Right.
Like, I'm in love again with the company.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, great. And then she got all weepy, and I was like, do I make you cry every time we get on the phone? She's like, no, I'm just getting very emotional.
Well, it's just nice to have support too.
Well, it's so nice to get support.
Which is one of the things is we as investors are better.
Right, for
just
sure.
Innately.
The only way I can describe myself is as a dreamer. I am most definitely a dreamer. When someone starts talking to me about what they're passionate about, I just start visualizing them 10, 15 years from now at the top of their field. And then I have to describe that to them. Turning a company into a multi-million-dollar organization. Being a fantastic mother. Whatever that dream is, I just like to think about it, to revel in its glory and in what that must feel like to get there, and then bring it back down to how do we make that happen for you. And I feel like as filmmakers, we are creative, but we also need to be creative with how we choose to promote and make business out of our film. It's about thinking outside the box. It's conventionally films are put out this way. I'm going to do everything that is not that. And then just trying to figure out how do we monetize that. That's where my brain loves that energy. And then on the people who are sympathetic to female films, I feel like that is such a passive language for us to embody and use. They shouldn't be sympathetic to us. They should know that our stories matter and that they must be told and must be put out to the world. And I find that when you come from that space, just the women who have come to Dream Girl and who, are interested in investing in a future company with myself and Erin that is about female-centric films and their access to capital and what they're going to help us do in the future, it's just like, own that space, step into your power, and those financiers will come to you.
As time went on, it became clear that Komal was more than just a great business partner and friend. She'd become an invaluable asset to our movement. So I asked her if she would move to New York and be my co-founder.
I think the other huge part of my life is my husband, and I've been very lucky to find an extremely loving and supportive husband. Your choice in a life partner is probably the biggest determinant of what your career is going to be. He sees our family as a team and as a portfolio. So for example, he's in a very good, stable job while I do something really risk aggressive. His analogy is that his job is a blue chip stock and I'm the leveraged stock.
You can't ever predict what's going to happen. And by the time the bookstore closed after 10 years, I walked through the store and I looked at the space and I remembered selecting the books, thought about the memories, and I said goodbye to it. Because I understand that's what happens. Things happen to industries and they're disruptions. Sometimes you can manage the disruption and get beyond it, and sometimes you can't, and you have to learn to let go. So I said goodbye to it, but it was my greatest accomplishment, and I still had that. Nobody can take that away.
Imagine working in a nonprofit where everybody's pretty serious suit, and I come with my big hair and my flower, and I'm trying to talk to people like, hey, I can change the world. I can bring business to women. I am an entrepreneur. No, they never take me seriously, but I didn't listen to them because that's their own fears. Just because they can do it, they want to tell me that I cannot do it. No, people stand in my way, but I push them because I'm not stopping until I see it for myself. Of course, I cannot always win. It happened sometime that I lost too. I'm a human like everybody. I'm not always a winner, but I just make sure that if I'm going to lose, I have fight to the end. Not because somebody have told me, oh no, you can't do this, Mariama, this I've done it. And most of the time when people tell me, don't do it, it's not gonna happen, I make it happen. I've never been the girl who let things go. When I want something, I'm going to get it. It's like a door, you come, you knock, and if it doesn't open, you break it.
Tout ça là, ça me fait déjà 1985 000 francs CFA.
Ok, 9 ans.
Ma grand-mère, elle était aussi comme toi. Elle a eu beaucoup de succès. On venait la voir, on la mettait sur les journaux, tout ça là. Mais elle n'a pas eu longue vie. Et chaque fois, nous continuons dans la famille à faire sur le tissu. Si maintenant, tu viens aux États-Unis, tu essaies de mettre en valeur ces pagnes-là, nos tissus-là, nous sommes vraiment fiers de toi.
Merci.
Nous te demandons d'avoir longue vie.
Merci, maman.
My families went through the Cultural Revolution, which was very, very hard. I grew up very, very poor in Shanghai, and my parents worked very hard to leave China. So when I think about some of the hurdles that I have, I'm in a much better position than my parents ever were. You know, I never had to work on the farm or be in a labor camp. And so I feel like my hurdles are actually a lot less. And sometimes when I think about some of the difficulties that I have, I put it into perspective and say, you know, I don't have to worry about food or shelter or sanitation or security. And so for me, it should be a lot easier.
Annie received a BA in chemistry from the University of Pennsylvania, where she graduated cum laude, an MBA from the Wharton Business School, and an MA in International Studies from the Lauder Institute. So with that, please welcome Senvol.
Why do additive manufacturing costs even vary by location? Let's take two examples. You're in Dayton, Ohio, or you're in Beijing, China. Why would a part actually cost differently? The rent is different between Dayton, Ohio and Beijing, China. The material cost could be different. The labor cost could be different. And all of those variables affect the cost per part.
I don't know if I ever mentioned this to you, but we've done some work with materials companies, helping them. Yeah.
A couple of years ago, Linda said, "Mom, we need to start a publishing company." And I said, "What? No, I am done. I am 80 years old. I really don't need to go down that path again." And then she came back and she asked again. African American authors are having a difficult time getting their books published now because of the tsunami that hit the book industry. It was doing something for a group of people that really were being ignored. And so I said, "All right, I'm in."
What we ask is that, so this type is her name. Audrey needs to pop more.
Right.
Yes,
Yes,
it's not
because-
a known photo of her.
No, and I can't see it.
Yeah. And
When it's
so-
sitting on the shelf,
Yeah.
we won't be able to see that.
You think three's enough?
Well, these
Two on the back and one on the front.
Yeah.
Okay, because we really want to make room for a good space for the synopsis.
Yeah, and if we have two good blurbs, I don't think we need to, I don't know.
I would like to see more women who have those little pockets of cash and not be so concerned about what's the exit with that cash, how much are they going to make with that cash, what's our ROI on that cash, but more like, I'm going to make a difference in someone's life. My career, I have something to offer that person, and I'm going to invest in women that I care about, that I'm passionate about their business, and it's something that I can do. All of my entrepreneurs that I'm invested in, they're like children. You know, they're like part of my family, and I really care about their success more than anything else. Some level of success that they want to have. It's not $1 billion exit. It could be a $50 million exit. It could be a business that becomes a lifestyle business and I get a check every year. I'm fine with that too. I just want to see all of them succeed.
So now you all better pick one scarf and I will call after you.
Because seriously, it's kind of big day for me too.
Congratulations, I want to give you a hug.
Oh,
it's really
sweet.
cool.
Thank you so
It's so
much.
amazing because so many people have dreams in New York City. Not everybody is determined to get. You know, they go halfway and then at some point they get afraid to go, or everybody put in their mind that, oh, so many people in New York, maybe I should let go. But honestly, I feel like if you really keep pushing, you believe in it, you keep going, there's no way to stop you.
This is happening. We're gonna make.
I wish when I was your age that I knew what I know now. To do and not doubt myself. I never would have dreamed that I would be the person that I am. I never would have dreamed that I would have actually had the largest African American bookstore in the country that made $1 million. But I did it. So it tells me that I can dream bigger. And you can start and you can feel scared. And that's okay. Every time you start something, it's okay to feel scared. Feeling scared tells you, and it is scary. It is not easy and it is scary. So it's all right to feel scared, but it doesn't mean you don't do it.
When I grow up, I want to be a softball player. When I grow up, I want to be an artist. I want to be a veterinarian, a scientist because I want to make things float. When I grow up, I want to be a writer. Olympian. When I grow up, I want to be the president.
2 years ago, I quit my job. I was absolutely terrified of this unknown path I had put myself on. I started this journey because I wanted so desperately to view myself as a leader. I wanted to feel the power, respect, and freedom that comes with creating something authentic. What I learned was that I already had this voice, this drive, and this mission inside of me. I just needed to surround myself with ambitious women so I could see it in myself. There is no formula for success. There's no blueprint to guide you. There's just a tiny voice telling you to dream big. Now go listen to it.
Okay, and can I record you, Mommy?
I have to have a title, but I gave myself a title.
What is it?
President.
Oh, okay.